Hi. So in my last video I was talking about my out-of-body experience, and I mentioned the thing that when people die, you can literally get out of body and be with them and help them and guide them and stuff. So I had a question like, where would I guide my relatives or like people that I care for that passed away? And what the whole thing about the light? Should people go to the white light, or is it a trap? Like, what the hell? So when it comes to this topic, before I share my experience with like where I would guide my relatives, I want to mention the fact that when people die, a lot depends on the experience and information that they've gathered throughout their life. Just because they die and the physical body drops dead doesn't mean that once you're out and once you're free, you're liberated and you have much more knowledge and you're doing way better than you did before in this life. Like, not necessarily. What happens is that a lot of people, like, once they pass away, their consciousness takes the shape of the best time they've been in this life. As in, like, in your 20s, 30s, when you've had the best shape in your life and you did great, you'll probably had that like as a physical connection to like how you're gonna look like and then be like as in like doing great in life. But all the knowledge that you've gathered throughout the years, everything that you found out on Earth and stuff, will be with you. Just because you die doesn't mean that you will know it all and you will know everything about the multiverse. No. You need to connect with your other parts that are in the multiverse to get information and just connect everything, connect the dots. So your information that you've gathered throughout the years is important, which is why I suggest people like, hey, this material world isn't the only thing to cling to. You can actually like learn more and just find about your abilities and possibilities and other things like that. Another thing is that when people die, a lot depends from their experience, but like some people can die and they're literally clinging to their body. So the body drops dead, the consciousness, the soul is still holding on to this. And they can literally lay in their body for like 50 years, 60 years, a few hundred years, a few thousand years, until they're like, why is nothing changing? And they literally start moving and they literally get out of the body. They were like literally clinging inside, and they're like inside, and once they move, they're like, my body's there, and what the hell? And they start questioning like, what the hell happened? Why is it like that? And they're like, bing, the light goes on, and they're like, I died, the body died, I'm free. And they start like, wow, like some people can literally pass away or drop dead and walk around, try to communicate with people like, hey, why can't you hear me? Like, look at this, like, and they're trying to like get some problem solved or just to live. And for like 50 years, like, I've met people in my out-of-body experiences where they literally passed away and they lived for like over 100 years trying to communicate to people, thinking that like, okay, no one's talking to me, so I'm gonna isolate myself too. And the person closed up and never talked to anyone, closed up, like just like sitting in there, but literally it's just the soul that like, no, the body died, the soul is there, and it's like literally on Earth, the 100 years passed and the person is still like not talking to anyone because they're like ignoring me, and like still has like grumpiness and stuff like that. And they'll like walk up to it in my out-of-body experience like, why are you still here? And like, what do you mean? And, like, he starts talking to me and he realized that like, oh, he dropped dead. He didn't realize that. So he was stuck on Earth for like 100 years, and finally he clicked, oh, I died. And like, he was free. He was able to leave and just like go out. So a lot depends on like our awareness of what's gonna happen when we die. And the basic things to check is like, okay, can I move out of my body? It's like, you drop dead, are you still in your body? Are you still seeing things through your own eyes? Or can you actually move around and see your body like over there? Like, okay, talking to people. You talk to people, no one's seeing you and everyone's ignoring you. That's another sign. Like, they might not actually see you for real. So that being said, like, a lot depends, and if people have the awareness of like, okay, when I drop dead, this is what it's probably gonna be like, because you can like literally be clinging down to your body and you wake up and you're still looking through your body's eyes, so you think that you're not dead, except like you're so clinging still that whichever way your body would be moved, you will still be like holding on to it like tightly, thinking that like it's your body. It's just like, oh, I have the like sleep paralysis, I can't like sleep, and like I can't get up, and there's so many things going on, like what the hell. So that can be a case. So once you like check out like, okay, like possibilities, you can also become like just open your eyes and be in the void, like it's complete darkness. This is what like happened to me in my experiences. And you wake up in the darkness, but the best thing about it is that your case is not there. Like all of your problems, everything you experience is just not there, and you are liberated, and you're like, it's just a very good feeling. And I'm looking forward to my death because I'm like really looking forward to that feeling again. And So there's that, but you can also like wake up and already be in another body. Your soul was so fast to leave this body and just go somewhere else to have another experience that no time holding back. You're just like you're born in another body, and that can be a case. So it depends. Like people have various experiences. It just doesn't mean that everyone's gonna be the same. Everyone's gonna have the same experience. So now coming back to the topic, the way I would do with my relatives, like if some of my relatives were to pass, like die today, I would like sit down, just get out of my body, and just walk up to them, like locate their soul, like where they are, and just guide them, like talk to them, like, hey, this is what happened. Your body just dropped dead. You're like still like a conscious, your soul, you're free. So here we go. And like I probably would create a realm for them, just like it's so easy. You are the creator. You are the godlike being. So your thought, your imagination, your creation, like basically, okay, a bench, boom, there's a bench. It can be a complete void, nothing's existing except the bench you create. And you can literally create the whole multiverse, the whole galaxies, like anything you can imagine. So I think like I would probably create the realm for them just to stay and figure themselves out. Because what I think would be right for them doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be right for them. It's just like, oh, it's my opinion. So, they need to figure themselves out. They need to figure out like what they want to do. Unless I'm like, hey, it's really bad for you to go back there on Earth, let's do this. So I might guide them in that way. But creating a realm for them where they can just like, just experience life in a different kind of way. Just, take a few days or whatever, like on Earth terms. But for them to think about life, what happened, what they want to do next. And like no hurries, no white light, nothing like pulling them, nothing being able to affect them in that sort of way. So that they could just have the time for themselves to think about the possibilities and what they want to do next, or just like have the place to educate them about the experiences and what's going on. Like if when I look at my relatives, most of them are ignorant. I mean, like not ignorant, but just they're not aware of what's going on in the world. They are all into their own world. Like for my grandparents, all they care is about their garden, like the natural food that they grow, and like having relationships with their kids and grandkids. Like this is all they care about. The rest is like doesn't matter. So seeing them as like not too spiritual or whatever, it's just like, okay, I might sit down and just explain the possibilities and let them choose of what they want to do. And if I see them like, well, we want to go back to Earth, I'm like, well, let me have another conversation with you. Just like to see if I can help them and guide them, because I probably would not want them to incarnate here. But again, the consciousness, it has so many shapes that, your relatives that are here on Earth, like your parents, your siblings, your partner, your lover, whoever it might be, whoever you care for, if they pass away and you're like afraid of them getting back here, you have to keep a fact that it's just one part of their consciousness. It's just like you are clinging to the body that you see, and like their consciousness, you will find it elsewhere as well. Same being, same thinking and stuff, but just different kind of body. And so if I would see my relatives like really wanting to go back on Earth, I probably would not want to waste my time, and I would like educate them and I would tell them information and stuff of what's going on and all the possibilities. But if they like choose to go back, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, do that. Like it's your choice. It's like So even if they would choose that, I could go to other realms. But knowing what their soul is like, knowing their consciousness, they will have other bodies in other realms as well. And I can locate the body, and it's gonna be still the same being. The body is different, sure, but the consciousness is what the real thing is. And so that would be like another thing. Like if there are possibilities, like I would talk to them and try to educate them and stuff and help them, have a realm for them, maybe like have my relatives visit the realms I visited that I really, really liked, if I think that's going to be helpful for them. But at the same time, if the consciousness doesn't want to move forward and they just want to repeat the experience, like really, really, for whatever reason they might have, there you go. Like this is your chance, So I would probably give them the opportunity, because like I know that there are consciousness who like have a fun time and like they're there like just having fun in other realms, and this is the same person, same being, just the body is different. Unless we keep a fact that, okay, we really need to get everyone out of Earth because it's toxic and whatever, that would, sure, like I would probably like, yeah, don't go back there. And I would just like create a shield where they cannot see the possibility, or like realm, or like like holographic illusion where like it's all void, like just surrounding Earth, nothing's there, So there's that. But the whole thing about the light and going into the light and stuff, I probably would not risk that myself. Like, that if I, like, if my body drops dead, I'm totally, like, just thinking of the realms that I want to be in and not even considering any archons, any entities, any white lights and stuff. I'm just going where I want to go. And this is a possibility that I think most people have. And you don't necessarily need to be super enlightened and know it all and just like whatever. Like, I might know a little bit, like I try to study, I try to learn a lot, but it's still just very, very little compared to some other beings. And for me, I don't think that, if people are not awake or aware of what's going on and they might be ignorant, it doesn't mean that they will be affected by the whole like light thing. That doesn't mean that they will see it. Doesn't mean that they will meet archons as well. Like, they might, but I've met quite a few beings, like 6 or 7, who passed away, who had no information about the archons of what's going on Earth and stuff, and they didn't see light. They just woke up and they just went to the other realms. Literally, body drops dead, their consciousness is there, and what happens is that the Earth that they would see would transform into another realm, and they would simply walk into it. And they were free of Earth, they were liberated, but they were free to be in another plane. And they had a new body, and they had a nice life. And so this whole karmic thing, like you have to repay the debt and for all your sins and all the stuff you did, doesn't work in the multiverse that way. Sure, like, the duality doesn't exist there. No good or bad, no right or wrong, like none of that. So even like if the person was a killer and stuff, or like a sociopath, so like all this stuff, like psychopath and all, they could literally have no knowledge, pass away. And depending on their beliefs, they would probably walk into that realm that they believe in without seeing the light and stuff, without seeing the hell or whatever. Because, like, people don't believe in God, people don't believe in hell or heaven, and they will not experience that. I think it's mainly our belief system territories. So people who are, religious, for example, and they believe that when they pass away, they will go to heaven, they will go. And whichever way they perceive heaven to be, either clouds or realms, and everything's full of gold, this is the realm they're probably gonna go to. And if people imagine hell and the fire is everywhere and like there's the Satan like with, I don't know, fork or whatever, like sure, they're gonna go there and this is exactly what they're gonna see. So a lot depends from our belief system. And if people just like, when I die, I will not see any entities, I will not see the white light, I will just go and have another like great experience. If they have that belief, they'll most likely be there because they don't give the opportunity for the entities or anyone else to come in and just like mess their life and stuff. So they have that freedom. And for those who probably have a fear, which is not a good thing, we can be afraid, of course, but this is not natural, or we should not have that because it's forced on us. Like, we're being scared about like, oh, if you're bad, you're gonna go to hell, and if you do something, you have to pay for your sins, and you're so bad, like blah blah blah. All these things, like, hey, I'm just a soul. I was bored as hell when I was living for billions of years as a positive person, and in this life I decided to, I don't know, steal a cookie from my grandma's house. I'm bad, I'm gonna go to hell for that? Like, no. Damn, So I think like a lot depends from our beliefs, and you don't necessarily have to be super aware of what's going on and have all the knowledge to pass away and cross over like fully, but I think it has a lot of an effect, because if people are not aware, it also might happen that the entities see the beings that are like have no awareness, and they're like, hey, look, and that's where we get the whole story of like there comes this being where it's just gonna like read over your life and show you all the negative things, skip on like on all the good things that happen, just empathize on like all the negative stuff that you did, no matter how small it might be. But it's gonna be the main thing. You meet up and like there's a life review section, and like now you're gonna get your shit triggered and go back to Earth, and that might be a thing, because entities, they target people who are mainly not aware, just because it's simpler to keep the cattle here in a I don't know, slave station. Let's call it that. Like on Earth, humans are just cattle. It's so simple to control us and manipulate us and just work with us. And for those who are not aware, who don't have enough knowledge, hey, the cow doesn't know where the exit is. She cannot escape, and it's gonna be killed. Poor animal. And same with beings. They don't have much awareness, and they might get caught. I'm not saying that it's gonna be like that. Like, everyone has a different experience, but they might get caught, and which is why, like, I would recommend, like, hey, you don't have to believe in any of that stuff, but know that you have the abilities to do anything once you pass away. And just that alone, like, if you cross over and you see the white light and you're like being pulled by it, and now you have beliefs, oh my god, if I go into the white light, I'm gonna reincarnate so bad, and we start triggering the fear, and like now the fear is pulling us even more, and like we're so afraid, and we lose ourselves. Like, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You can be afraid, but one thought to stop it all will just kill it. And you're like, you can be like tracked by the light and pulled in, and you're like, you might have like, no, stop, and you stop it, and literally it disappears. It doesn't have to be a thing. So I think a lot depends from our beliefs and just trusting ourselves, trusting who we are, and just knowing our abilities. You can do anything and everything, and you're not limited by any entities. Of course, they might try to mess with you, they might try to talk to you, they might try to appear as your relatives, and like, just dressing up as your relatives, and like this actual, like the Archon or some like evil entity or being, just having the mask of your like relative, and try to talk to you and like, hey, like, I love you and I've seen you so much, and like whatever, like, and I'll have a nice story just to talk you into coming back. Your relatives for real would never do that, because if they had awareness of what it is, and like they didn't necessarily need to have awareness, but once they pass away, the case disappears. All for problems, all for issues, anything that happened, it's not a thing anymore. Sure, it might be embedded in soul as in like as an engram, and whatever, like the super traumatic incidents that happen might be a case, and that is the only thing that can transpire. But apart from that, like all of your like emotional stuff that happened, it's not gonna be a thing. Like you pass over, and like you have the knowledge, but it's not affecting you anymore, and you're liberated. So even if your relatives were to pass away, they would like, oh, I'm free. They don't need to talk you into that, into coming back on Earth. So there's one thing. Another thing is like, you as a being, you're very powerful, so you can pretty much feel it. Once the entity comes over, you can feel the energy, and you can literally, like before death, I think like once we get close to that age, like we start like, oh, I'm getting too old, or I'm gonna die, or something. Before that, like you still have time, depending, like even now, like you can be like 60 years away from your death, for example. But even now, you can like make a rule that once I die, no entity can like come close to me, no entity can talk to me, no entity can affect me. I will see no white light, and I will just have free time to figure myself out on what to do. And you make that rule. And it's a rule. So you create your reality, and since you are the creator, other beings have to obey. So entities that are like lesser than us, who are, they will not be able to get close, because you've made that rule, and it's like basically you have that shield around yourself, and they're like try to get in, try to talk to you, but they cannot bang through, and like they cannot like open the door and come in, because they're like, you just made the rule, and you isolate for yourself from that experience. So now you have your own belief system where you cross over, and you are free, no one's affecting you, you have time, and like time is a relative thing, like out there just doesn't exist, and you can like be there for like millions of years just trying to figure yourself out. You don't have to like make a fast decision of like what to do next. You can just like go back on Earth, not incarnating, but just be a spectator and watch things like move around, and then like, okay, this is what's happening, this is what I'm gonna do, and then you make a decision. Like, just because you go back to Earth doesn't mean that you are incarnating. You can be a spectator and just like move as a consciousness, have a body, or like like whatever, but you don't have to incarnate here to be here. And that's another thing. Like other beings we see there sometimes, like all of these orbs and stuff. There's other beings passing by, spectating us, and like you can literally, if you would like focus in on that, you can literally close up to where you can actually see the being inside, and that's the thing. So, with all that being said, I think like, even if I would like go out of body and like see my like relatives that would pass away, like I said, I would try to guide them and just give them time to figure themselves out. And I know that, okay, probably the person I love most incarnated, like, let's take the worst case scenario. The person I love most incarnates here on Earth, and I'm like, oh no, what to do? Like, I don't want them to be stuck on here. One, it's just the body, and the body is what you're attached to mainly. And you just like, okay, let go of the body. The consciousness is strong enough. So what you do is that you keep the note of the consciousness and what it is, and you track it in some other realm. And you connect with that person, and you're still being with the same being, it's just a different body. But at the same time, you can talk to them and teach them and help them to recover that part. Like as if when we're right here and we're doing that like soul fragment like, and we're recalling our soul fragments and like missing aspects of ourselves, and you can literally talk to those aspects like, okay, this like probably confident part of me that when it's making a videos or like when talking in public is super confident and it's like all, you know, easy to talk and makes pauses and like everyone like that. And I would imagine that like I'm talking that part and I'm inviting it back, and I would just like, okay, might be just like little bubbles, like little aspects that would make our soul and stuff, and I would just like fill myself with that part, and I would allow it to come. And what happens is that as a being in another realm, you can literally talk to yourself that way, and the soul, the consciousness that is out here right now, that it can come back to the original body or stuff. So when we think about our higher self and stuff, we can connect with it and we can ask for help, and literally it can be like taken out. Which is why some people like, hey, and you basically talk to your higher self and you ask your higher self to just pull you out of body. And what happens, you literally get out of body, and the card just pulls you out. So it's something that a lot of people would have the out of body experience but not have the memory. They would have the out of body experience but not enough knowledge, and like you know, they would be limited. The first thing is that they have so many attachments here on Earth that even when they're out, they don't spend enough time in the multiverse. There's just a few minutes, it's just probably an hour in that out of body world, that when they come back, they're clinging on to the things right here on Earth. They have relatives, they have things that they care about, everyday problems, like it's a thing. And if we're super attached to that, like even if we get out, we might forget everything, or we might still like have that huge pull. And a lot of people, when they get out of body the first times, if they're close to Earth, depending on stuff, but that the magnetic field is what pulls us back, and we feel like we're moving slow in the out of body realm, and we're trying so much, but like we're just being pulled back, we lose our memories and stuff. They have all of that effects. And if we can like, okay, once I get out of body, you just like transfer your consciousness into far away from here, and you're free. And you can literally have another being like a walk-in, and you can talk to that being and give the agreement like, okay, you can take over my body, and you have a consciousness, another being who wants to be here, who has a reason and just wants your body and stuff, because the body is simply a vessel, and you can leave at any time. And if you like, for example, talk to a walk-in and like allow them to take over your body, they can take over your body. So now it's another consciousness entering your body and being you. They have all the memories, they have all the knowledge about you as the body. So that, you know, like when the consciousness comes back, like as if my consciousness would go to another body right now in the multiverse, I would have all the memory of that body. So the same thing happens to them. Like they go into your body, they know everything. So you are free to leave. The walk-in comes in, they take over your body, there's just another soul, and they're gonna do whatever they want to do. And people will see you like, hey, that relative is still alive, they're doing good. They don't know that you got out. They don't have the knowledge. They see you as just having another day. But it might be another being controlling your body. And you, once the walk-in comes over and takes over your body, you're free to go. And you don't have to come back. You can just you just let go of the body and you're free to go. And for people who are thinking about the suicide but are afraid of their relatives of having the shock and stuff, this is not some way. You just have a walk-in taking over and you leave. And some people might not agree with that because like, hey, if you do stuff in your life and you know you have all of these difficulties but you can't handle it anymore, then you cannot leave because it's just like a universal law. It should not be that way. If you have a messed up life, you need to face your troubles and issues and just go through that and work it through, and then you're free to die and then you can move on. Like, no. Why should we be in eternal pain? For example, if a soul incarnates and you have an experience here again and again and again, and once in one lifetime you're born as a kid in Africa who's starving, who doesn't have food or anything, who's being hunted down by a lion or even his mates and stuff. This is one kind of life. Second life, you come in and you're born like in, I don't know, Syria or something, and the war's going on, and you're like, hey, you're a happy kid, constantly holding a gun, trying to defend yourself, and like knowing about how the world is wrong and how you're like the worst country and stuff, and you're just trying to live, you're just trying to get an education, you're just trying to survive, and you get nuked. That's the second life. Third life, you get in somewhere else, and now you have to work and labor for like Apple and stuff, and you're like a slave and stuff. Why should we be in an eternal suffering, life after life after life, if it's not what we want? Why should not we be able to, okay, if someone else wants this body, come in, because I'm done. You know, like, we don't need to suffer forever, we don't need to pay for our sins or whatever, because in the multiverse, the duality does not exist. There is no good or right, bad or wrong and all this stuff. That doesn't work that way. In my belief, I might be completely wrong, but this is the way I see it, and I'm going for it. Like, if I think, as a consciousness, living for billions of years, eventually you get tired of the same old life. You can live for billions of years being a very good person, being a very loving, being like having only one mate for billions of years, and eventually you get tired of the same old experience, and you think of changing it up. Like you got bored of being super good, being like Jesus or whatever you think of, and you're just like, okay, what would it be like if I would kill a person? And in the multiverse, there is no pain. It doesn't exist. I got shot tons of times, I didn't feel pain. If you are in the lower realms, on the other hand, like Earth or even lower, well, yeah, you're gonna feel pain. But if you go up, and like, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, if something happens to you, to your physical body, or all this stuff, you can die, but it's just the physical body drops dead or whatever, but you can literally have a thought like, oh, recover, and you literally grow back, no pain, no nothing, you were just like, you were shot, your arm got cut off, and it just grows back, and you're fine. Like, it's amazing with all the possibilities out there, and I think that the whole pushing of like, no, you cannot leave because, and like it's inhumane and unethical, and you have to pay for your sins and all this stuff, and the whole karmic thing is just another thing to keep us here, to keep us trapped. Why should we be here and suffer forever? And I'm just like I don't know, ranting and stuff, just talking about the subject, but like I don't think that if you're, for example, your family, your relatives in the past had a life and did something bad, and now you're born into the family and you were surrounded by the people who were bad or did something and they're super suppressive, you don't have to be the effect of that. You don't have to pay for their sins. You probably got like some beings who incarnate here on Earth don't do it on their own free will. Some do. Some people choose like, I want to be on Earth, I want to try my experience. Others get trapped, others get like kidnapped and like thrown into the body. You don't know. Some people get birth bumped. You are like picking a family, like, okay, I want to be here, and on your way to the body, boom, and you start going like, you just get directed into a wrong family, and now the family that you chose that would be super good for you becomes another family that is super suppressive. And that happens as well. So keeping that in mind, like, all of these possibilities, the whole karmic thing and the whole, like, suicide is not good, and like, don't leave the body, like, you have to pay for your sins, the karma is a thing, and like, all of that, like, it's not a thing. Not in my belief system. I might be completely wrong, like I'm saying, but this is what I believe in, and I don't think we should pay for someone else's sins, and the whole thing, like, for someone else's sins, like, hell, we're just consciousness trying to experience life. And everything that happens, it might be suffering right now, it might be harsh, but it doesn't mean that it's much of a thing. It's just a game for us. For the consciousness, it's just a game. At some point, we were so tired of the same old life that we knew it all. We created all of the planets, we created all of the galaxies, we created so much. We've tried all kinds of lives, the good and bad, and like, trying to be very good and then raping and killing and then like all that stuff. I think as a consciousness, we tried it, and at some point we got so tired and so, I don't know, like crazy that we blew ourselves up. The consciousness, what we call source, is us. I am the source, you are the source, everyone here on the planet and everyone in the multiverse is the source. And probably once we were all together, we were one. But we just like got so tired of same old life and knowing it all that like, okay, what happens if we blow ourselves up and experience life from the multiple points of view, so it's like simultaneously. And me, you, and everyone else here on Earth, every single animal, every single like tree and plant and stuff, is consciousness, and we are like experiencing life simultaneously from different perspective, from this different point of view, from different kind of thinking and stuff like that. And we think like, oh, we're individuals, we know, like we're so different, and like you know little bit, we know a little bit, but it's the same consciousness. Eventually, it is the same consciousness. So the whole thing about soul fragments and connecting ourselves back, like you are connecting yourself with the parts you've broken back. So I might have lost like over millions of parts myself. As in, I'm having conversation with my parents, and they can tell something that like I start rejecting myself. Like I want to be into music, and my parents are like, no, you can't make music. Like you can't make money with music. Music is blah blah blah, and they literally direct me into no music in your life. You can like choose it as a hobby, sure, but not as a career. Don't do that. It's not for you. And I like reject that musician part of me. Like no, not anymore. Like it's just not gonna work in my life. And eventually my thinking changes, and the part that was into music leaves. So I myself was rejecting that part, and I made my part leave. That part, the consciousness, is still alive. It can move into other realms, it can be with us, but it's gonna move on and live in our life. And eventually, once you call it back, you get that part back, you get that personality back, but the consciousness, you start building yourself up. Yourself. The parts you've lost. But every other being, we've probably lost millions of parts and billions of parts. And like when we connect ourselves together, this is what the source is eventually. In my perspective, like I might be completely wrong, but this is like my opinion on this. So I expanded a lot into this whole subject, and I'm interested in like what do you think about this whole thing? The white light, is it the trap or is it the good thing? Guiding relatives after they pass away. What would you do after you like pass over? Like all that kind of stuff. Like I talked a lot, but like I'm interested in your thoughts, and I hope this was valuable or interesting or entertaining or anything. And if I'm wrong, if you think that I'm wrong, just please tell me because I'm interested in your opinion. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye.